The words cut through me like ice. Don't touch me. I have self-respect. My wife Sarah pulled away from me in our bed, her voice cold and dismissive after 12 years of marriage. This was the woman who once couldn't keep her hands off me, who wrote me love notes and tucked them in my lunch bag. Now she looked at me like I was beneath her. It started 3 weeks after her promotion at Preston, Whitmore and Associates. Something had changed, and those 7 words would change everything. I'm Alvin, 38 years old, and until recently, I thought I had everything figured out. Sarah and I met 14 years ago at a coffee shop near the University of Colorado. She was studying for her undergraduate finals, stressed about her political science exam. I was finishing my master's in software engineering. I offered to buy her coffee, she accepted, and we talked until the shop closed. 2 years later, we were married. Our life together seemed like something out of a magazine. We had a beautiful 4-bedroom house in Denver's Cherry Creek neighborhood, the kind with a wraparound porch and a yard big enough for our 2 kids to play soccer. Emma, our 10-year-old, had Sarah's green eyes and my stubborn streak. Jacob, 8, was all energy and curiosity, always taking apart his toys to see how they worked. Just like I did as a kid. For years, we were the couple our friends envied. I supported Sarah through law school, working 60-hour weeks at a tech startup while she studied. I cooked dinner, helped with her flashcards, and drove her to campus when her car broke down. When she graduated and passed the bar exam, I was the proudest husband in Colorado. We celebrated with a bottle of champagne that cost more than we could afford. But it didn't matter. We were building something together. Sarah started at a small family law practice, making $45,000 a year. It wasn't much, but combined with my salary as a senior software engineer at Technova Industries, we were comfortable. We saved money, went on camping trips to Rocky Mountain National Park, and had game nights every Friday. Sarah would laugh at my terrible jokes, and I'd dance with her in the kitchen while dinner cooked. 6 months ago, everything shifted. Sarah got recruited by Preston, Whitmore and Associates, one of Denver's most prestigious law firms. Her starting salary jumped to $120,000, and suddenly she was working with corporate clients whose portfolios were worth millions. At first, I was thrilled for her. She'd worked so hard, and this was her dream job. But dreams can become nightmares when you're not careful. The changes started small. Sarah stopped packing lunch and started eating at expensive restaurants downtown. She'd come home talking about her colleagues' vacation homes in Aspen and their kids' private schools. She'd mention the partners' wives who didn't work, who spent their days at the country club or shopping at Cherry Creek Mall. "Did you know Michael Thornton's wife just got back from Paris?" she'd say over dinner. She bought an entire new wardrobe from some designer I can't even pronounce. I'd smile and nod, thinking she was just adjusting to a new environment. But then came the comments about our life. Our reliable Toyota Camry was embarrassing when she had to park it next to the partners' BMWs and Mercedes. Our house, which she'd once called perfect, was now dated and too small for entertaining. 3 months into her new job, I noticed she'd stopped wearing her wedding ring to work. She said it was because she'd gained a few pounds and it was tight, but she'd actually lost weight from skipping meals and living on coffee and ambition. One evening, while looking for our property tax documents in her home office, I stumbled upon something that made my stomach drop. Hidden beneath a stack of legal briefs were bank statements for an account I didn't know existed. Sarah had opened it 2 months after starting at Preston, Whitmore and Associates. The balance showed $42,000. $42,000 she'd hidden from me. I sat there, staring at the statements, trying to make sense of it. We'd always shared everything. We had a joint checking account, joint savings, joint everything. We made financial decisions together, from buying our first couch to choosing Emma's summer camp. This secret account felt like betrayal. When I heard Sarah's car in the driveway, I quickly put the statements back. I needed time to think, to understand what was happening to us. That night she barely spoke during dinner, scrolling through her phone while the kids told stories about school. When Emma asked her about the school play, Sarah just said, "That's nice, honey," without looking up. After the kids went to bed, I tried to connect with her. I brought her favorite wine to the living room, put on the jazz playlist she loved, and sat beside her on the couch. She moved away. "I have briefs to review," she said, taking her wine to her office. For 3 more weeks, I tried everything. I cooked her favorite meals, suggested date nights, even bought tickets to the symphony she'd mentioned wanting to attend. Every attempt was met with excuses about work, exhaustion, or meetings. Then came that night 3 days ago. I reached for her in bed, just wanting to hold my wife, to feel close to her again. That's when she said those words that changed everything. "Don't touch me. I have self-respect." The silence that followed was deafening. Self-respect? What did that even mean? Did she think being intimate with her husband of 12 years somehow diminished her? I lay there in the dark, feeling like a stranger in my own bed, wondering when I'd become someone she needed self-respect to reject. The next morning, I woke to find Sarah already dressed in a new suit I didn't recognize, applying makeup at her vanity. She looked beautiful but cold, like a marble statue. "We need to talk," she said, not meeting my eyes in the mirror. Sarah set down her makeup brush and turned to face me with the expression of someone about to conduct a business meeting. She pulled out her phone and began reading from what looked like a prepared list. "Alvin, I've been doing a lot of thinking about our future," she began, her tone professional and detached. "My position at Preston, Whitmore, and Associates has opened up opportunities for us, but we need to make some changes if we're going to capitalize on them." I sat on the edge of our bed, still in my pajamas, feeling increasingly surreal as she continued. "First, we need to join Riverside Country Club. The membership fee is $25,000, with monthly dues of $800. All the partners belong, and it's where the real networking happens. Second, you need to lease a new car. Your Toyota is 10 years old, and it's embarrassing when you pick me up from firm events. I'm thinking a BMW 5 Series or a Mercedes E-Class. Third, your wardrobe needs a complete overhaul. No more department store clothes. We need to shop at Brooks Brothers or Nordstrom, get you properly tailored suits." She kept going, listing demands like she was reading a grocery list. "Private school for the kids at Denver Academy, $15,000 per year per child. A vacation home in Vail. Hosting dinner parties with catered food." Each item felt like another brick in a wall growing between us. "Sarah," I finally interrupted, "we can't afford all this. Even with your new salary, these expenses would put us in serious debt." Her face hardened. "This is about investing in our future, Alvin. Don't you want more for our family?" "I want our family to be happy," I replied. "We were happy before all this." She laughed, but there was no warmth in it. Were we? Were we really? Or were we just settling for mediocrity? "Do you know who I had lunch with yesterday? Michael Thornton, the managing partner. Do you know what kind of life he lives? His wife drives a Bentley. They have a house in Aspen and an apartment in New York. Their kids go to boarding school in Switzerland." "Since when do you care about those things?" I asked, genuinely confused by this person who looked like my wife but sounded like a stranger. "Since I realized I've been selling myself short my entire life," she snapped. "I graduated summa cum laude, Alvin. I was law review. I'm brilliant at what I do, and I deserve a life that reflects that. But you? You're content being a mid-level software engineer, driving a 10-year-old car, shopping at Target." Her words stung, but what hurt more was the contempt in her voice. This was the woman I'd supported through law school, who used to say she couldn't have done it without me. "Michael says I have real potential for partnership," she continued, her voice softening when she mentioned his name. "But partners' spouses need to fit a certain image. They need to belong to the right clubs, attend the right events, present the right appearance. Michael's been mentoring me, helping me understand how things work at this level." "How often do you have lunch with Michael?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "A few times a week. Sometimes dinner when we're working late on cases." She turned back to her mirror, applying lipstick. "He's been incredibly generous, actually. He gave me this necklace as a bonus for landing the Patterson account." I looked at the delicate gold chain with a diamond pendant. It had to cost at least $3,000. "The firm gives jewelry as bonuses?" "For top performers, yes," she said quickly. "Michael believes in recognizing excellence. He gave me these earrings last week, when I won the Morrison motion. Diamond earrings. Another few $1,000s. A suspicious pattern was forming in my mind. Sarah, are these really firm bonuses, or are these personal gifts from Michael? She spun around, her face flushed with anger. How dare you? Michael is my mentor. He's helping me advance my career, something you clearly have no interest in doing. You're so insecure, so threatened by my success that you're trying to turn something professional into something inappropriate. I'm not threatened by your success, I said firmly. I'm concerned that you're losing yourself in this world. The Sarah I married wouldn't demand I liquidate my retirement fund for country club memberships. The Sarah you married was naive and didn't know her worth, she shot back. I'm finally becoming who I was meant to be, and if you can't support that, maybe you're not the man I thought you were. She grabbed her new Louis Vuitton bag, another purchase I hadn't known about, and headed for the door. I have a partner's breakfast meeting. Think about what I've said, Alvin. I need a husband who's going to rise with me, not hold me back. After she left, I called in sick to work. I needed to understand what was happening to my marriage. I started doing something I'd never thought I'd do, investigating my own wife. I looked through her credit card statements online and found charges at restaurants I'd never heard of, all lunch and dinner meetings over the past 3 months. The Palace Hotel downtown appeared multiple times. Why would she need to go to a hotel for a business meeting when her firm had conference rooms? Then I checked her social media, something I rarely did. She'd been tagged in photos from firm events, always standing next to the same tall, silver-haired man in his 50s, Michael Thornton. In every photo, he had his hand on her back or shoulder. She was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months, looking up at him with obvious admiration. My brother Marcus called while I was spiraling down this rabbit hole. Marcus was a private investigator, 5 years older than me, and had seen enough broken marriages to recognize the signs. "How are you doing, little brother?" he asked. "Not great," I admitted, and found myself telling him everything. There was a long pause after I finished. "Alvin, I didn't want to say anything, but I've been worried about you. I saw Sarah at the Ritz-Carlton downtown 2 weeks ago. It was 2 in the afternoon on a Wednesday. She was with an older man, and they were very friendly." My heart sank. How friendly? They were holding hands across the table. When they left, he had his arm around her waist. "I'm sorry, Alvin. I hoped I was misreading the situation." After we hung up, I sat in my empty house, surrounded by photos of a family that suddenly felt like a lie. The worst part wasn't even the probable affair. It was the way she'd made me feel small, inadequate, less than. She'd rejected me in our bed, saying she had self-respect, as if being with me was beneath her now. That evening, when she came home late again, claiming another firm dinner, I made a decision. She wanted me to liquidate my retirement fund, to destroy our financial security for her new image. She wanted me to become someone I wasn't, to pretend our middle-class life was something to be ashamed of. But I wasn't ashamed. I was proud of what we'd built, or what I thought we'd built. And if she couldn't see that anymore, if she needed designer clothes and country clubs to feel worthy, then maybe she was the one who'd lost her self-respect. Not me. The next morning, Sarah approached me with paperwork from Riverside Country Club and a lease agreement for a BMW 7 Series she'd already negotiated at the dealership. She placed them on the kitchen counter with the confidence of someone who expected immediate compliance. "I've done all the legwork," she announced. "All you need to do is transfer the money from your 401k. I've already called your plan administrator. You can withdraw up to $50,000 with a penalty of just $10,000 for early withdrawal. That leaves $40,000, which covers the country club membership and the down payment on the car with enough left over for your new wardrobe." I looked at the papers, then at my wife, who was checking her phone while waiting for me to sign. Emma and Jacob were eating cereal at the table, pretending not to notice the tension between their parents. "No," I said simply. Sarah's head snapped up. "Excuse me?" I said no. "I'm not liquidating my retirement fund." Her face turned red. "Alvin, we discussed this. This is necessary for our future." "Don't ask me," I said, meeting her eyes directly. "I have self-respect." The silence in the kitchen was deafening. Even the kids stopped eating. Sarah's face went from red to white, then back to red again. "What did you just say?" Her voice was dangerously quiet. "You heard me. If having self-respect means not letting someone touch you, then it also means not destroying your financial future for someone else's image." Sarah slammed her hand on the counter, making the kids jump. How dare you throw my words back at me? This is completely different. Is it? You rejected me because touching me somehow violated your self-respect. Well, bankrupting myself for country club memberships violates mine. You pathetic little man, she hissed, then caught herself, glancing at the kids. Emma, Jacob, go get ready for school. The kids hurried upstairs, Emma giving me a worried look over her shoulder. Once they were gone, Sarah unleashed. Do you have any idea what you're doing? I'm offering you a chance to be part of something bigger, and you're throwing it away because of your pride? This isn't pride, Sarah. This is common sense. That retirement fund is our security, our kids' college funds, our future. Our future? She laughed bitterly. You think small, Alvin. You've always thought small. Michael was right about you. What else has Michael been right about? I asked. He says you're intimidated by strong women, that you can't handle having a successful wife, that you'd rather keep me down than see me rise. Michael seems to have a lot of opinions about our marriage, I observed. Tell me, does he share these insights during your lunches at the Palace Hotel? Sarah's face went pale. How did you? Does Michael's wife know how much time he spends mentoring you? Does she know about the jewelry? The dinners? There's nothing inappropriate happening, Sarah said, but she couldn't meet my eyes. Michael appreciates my intellect, my potential. He sees what I could become if I wasn't held back. Held back? Sarah, I worked 60-hour weeks to put you through law school. I celebrated every success, supported every dream. How is that holding you back? Because you're content with mediocrity, she exploded. You're happy being nobody, living in this suburban house, driving that pathetic car, shopping at Costco. I want more, Alvin. I deserve more. And if you won't give it to me, I'll find someone who will. She grabbed her bag and headed for the door. I have a firm dinner tonight. Don't wait up. Sarah, I called after her. There's no firm dinner tonight. I called your office yesterday. Your secretary said there were no events scheduled this week. She froze in the doorway but didn't turn around. Plans change. It's a private gathering at Michael's place. After she left, I felt something shift inside me. The desperation to save my marriage was replaced by a need to know the truth. I dropped the kids at school, then drove to Michael Thornton's penthouse downtown. I'd found his address through public records. The man owned a $3 million condo in a building called The Pinnacle. I parked across the street and waited. At 7:30, Sarah's BMW pulled into the building's private garage. She was wearing a red dress I'd never seen before, her hair styled differently. She looked like she was going on a date. I took photos with my phone, time-stamped and clear. Part of me wanted to storm in, to confront them, but I knew that would only give her ammunition to paint me as the crazy, jealous husband. Instead, I drove home and called Marcus. I need your help, I said, professionally this time. Marcus came over within an hour, bringing his laptop and some equipment. I've actually been documenting some things already, he admitted. I was hoping I wouldn't need to show you, but he pulled up a file on his computer. Photos of Sarah and Michael at various restaurants, entering and leaving hotels, embracing in parking garages. The dates went back 2 months. There's more, Marcus said grimly. He showed me records from a source at her firm. Michael Thornton has been billing hours to client accounts for the time he spends with Sarah. Essentially, clients are paying for their affair. He's also been expensing their meals in hotels as business expenses. If this got out, he could be disbarred. What about Sarah? She's been signing off on the expense reports as the second attorney on the cases, even when she wasn't actually working on them. She's complicit in the fraud. I stared at the evidence, feeling numb. This wasn't just infidelity. It was professional misconduct that could destroy both their careers. There's something else, Marcus said. I did a background check on Michael Thornton. This isn't his first rodeo. He had an affair with an associate at his last firm in Chicago. When she threatened to expose him, he had her blacklisted. She never practiced law again. So Sarah's not special. She's just the latest in a pattern. Looks like it. What do you want to do with this information? I thought about it for a long moment. Nothing yet. I need to protect the kids first. Get my ducks in a row. Sarah came home at 2 in the morning. I pretended to be asleep as she slipped into bed, smelling of wine and men's cologne. She was careful not to touch me, staying on her side of the bed. The woman who once used to curl into me every night now maintained a careful distance, as if I was the one who'd betrayed her. The next day was Saturday. Sarah slept late while I made breakfast for the kids. Emma, perceptive as always, asked if Mom and I were getting divorced. "Why would you ask that, sweetheart?" "She's different," Emma said simply. "She doesn't laugh anymore, and she looks at you like you're not even there." I didn't know how to respond to that, so I just hugged her. Jacob, oblivious to the tension, chattered about his upcoming soccer game. Normal life continuing, while everything fell apart. When Sarah finally emerged at noon, she was on her phone, laughing at something. She saw me, and immediately stopped laughing, her face hardening. "Michael?" I asked. "A friend," she said curtly. "The friend you had dinner with last night at his $3 million penthouse?" She went very still. "You followed me?" I protected myself. "There's a difference. You had no right." "I had every right. You're my wife, though you seem to have forgotten that." Sarah set down her phone carefully. "What do you want, Alvin?" "I want my wife back. The woman who loved our life, our family, who didn't need designer clothes and country clubs to feel worthy." "That woman was settling," Sarah said coldly. "That woman didn't know what she could have." "And what can you have, Sarah? An affair with a married man who's using firm resources to fund your relationship? A man who's done this before with other associates?" Her face drained of color. "You don't know what you're talking about. I know about the expense reports, the fraudulent billing, the hotels charged to client accounts. I know about Chicago, about the associate he destroyed when she became inconvenient." Sarah sank into a chair, her carefully constructed facade cracking. "How? Does it matter? The question is, what happens next? Because right now, you're standing on the edge of a cliff, Sarah. One wrong move, and you lose everything. Your career, your reputation, everything you've worked for. Are you threatening me? I'm trying to save you, but I can't do that if you won't save yourself first." She looked at me then, really looked at me, for the first time in months. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the woman I married. Then, her phone buzzed with a text, and the moment was gone. She glanced at it, and her face hardened again. "I have to go," she said. "Michael needs me to review some documents." "On a Saturday? Success doesn't take weekends off," she said, repeating what was obviously one of Michael's mantras. As she headed for the door, I made a decision. "Sarah, if you walk out that door to go to him, I'm done. I'll file for divorce Monday morning." She paused, but didn't turn around. "You won't do that. You need me." "No," I said quietly. "I needed the woman you used to be. I don't need who you've become." She left anyway. Sarah returned home Sunday evening, acting as if our confrontation had never happened. She breezed through the door with shopping bags from Saks Fifth Avenue, humming to herself. The kids were doing homework at the dining room table, and she barely acknowledged them as she passed. "I've made a decision," she announced, setting down her bags. "I'm filing for divorce." Emma's pencil stopped moving. Jacob looked up from his math worksheet. I felt the air leave the room. "Kids, go to your rooms," I said quietly. "But Dad," Emma started. "Please, sweetheart, go upstairs." Once they were gone, I turned to Sarah. "You're filing for divorce?" "I've already consulted with Jennifer Hartley from my firm. She's the best family law attorney in Denver. She says with my income now exceeding yours, and your refusal to support my career advancement, I have grounds for divorce with favorable terms." Favorable terms? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Sarah pulled out a folder from her bag. "I want the house, primary custody of the children, and alimony. You've been the primary breadwinner for most of our marriage. And Colorado law recognizes that I sacrificed career opportunities while in law school." "Sacrificed? I supported you. And now it's time for you to continue that support while I establish myself in my new position." She was so matter-of-fact, like she was discussing a business contract. "Jennifer says we can make the case that you're emotionally abusive." "Emotionally abusive?" I was stunned. "How am I emotionally abusive?" "You're controlling. You refuse to support my career. You follow me, spy on me. You try to isolate me from my professional network. Your professional network? Is that what we're calling Michael now? Her phone rang. She glanced at it and smiled. It's Michael. I need to take this. She walked to the other room, not bothering to lower her voice. Hi. Handsome. Yes, I told him. No, he didn't take it well. Of course, I'm still coming tonight. Jennifer says the papers will be ready Tuesday. I stood there, listening to my wife plan my destruction with her lover, feeling like I was in a nightmare. But then something else caught my attention. Emma's voice from the stairs. Mom? Emma called down. Can you help me with my homework? Not now, Emma. I'm on an important call. But you promised yesterday you'd help me with my science project. I said not now. Sarah snapped. Go ask your father. That's about his speed anyway. I heard Emma's footsteps retreat, but something made me follow quietly. I found her in her room, not doing homework but typing on her tablet. She looked up when she saw me, tears in her eyes. Dad, I need to show you something. She pulled out her phone and played a recording. It was Sarah's voice, talking to someone on the phone. The timestamp showed it was from 3 days ago. Once the divorce is finalized and I have custody, I'm sending them to boarding school. Exeter or Andover. Somewhere prestigious, but far away. Michael knows people on the admissions boards. I can't have teenagers cramping my style when I'm trying to make partner. Plus, Michael doesn't want kids around. He already raised his, and he's not interested in playing stepfather. My heart broke listening to it. Sarah wasn't just leaving me. She was planning to abandon our children. I was scared, Emma whispered. She doesn't want us anymore, does she? I hugged my daughter tight. I won't let anything happen to you or Jacob, I promise. Are you going to fight her, Dad? Yes, sweetheart, I am. Monday morning, instead of going to work, I drove to the offices of Thornton and Associates, but not Sarah's firm. This was the law office of Jennifer Thornton, Michael's wife. She was a successful corporate attorney in her own right, specializing in pharmaceutical contracts and corporate litigation. Her assistant asked if I had an appointment. No, but tell her it's about her husband and Sarah Chen from Preston, Whitmore and Associates. I have information she needs to see. Within 5 minutes, I was sitting across from Jennifer Thornton. She was an elegant woman in her 50s, with sharp intelligence in her eyes and an air of controlled power. You have 5 minutes to explain why I shouldn't have security escort you out, she said coolly. I placed a flash drive on her desk. Your husband is having an affair with my wife. This contains documentation of not just the affair, but expense fraud, billing fraud, and misuse of firm resources. There are also recordings and photographs. She inserted the drive into her computer, her face remaining impassive as she scrolled through the evidence. After 10 minutes, she looked up. How long has this been going on? At least 3 months, possibly longer. And your wife is Sarah Chen, the new associate? Yes. She's planning to divorce me. Your husband has promised to help her make partner and other things. Jennifer laughed, but it was bitter and cold. Of course he has. Michael always promises them things. Let me guess, he told her, I'm cold, that our marriage is loveless, that he's planning to leave me? I don't know the details. I do. It's the same script every time. She turned to her computer and began typing. Mr. Chen, are you aware that I serve on the board of directors for 3 companies that represent 60% of Preston, Whitmore, and Associates' billable hours? I wasn't. And are you aware that Michael signed a rather comprehensive prenuptial agreement that specifically addresses infidelity? No. She smiled then, and it was sharp as a blade. He loses everything if I can prove adultery. The house, the investments, his stake in his family trust. Everything except his partnership stake, which is about to become worthless. She picked up her phone. Margaret, clear my calendar for the rest of the day. Then get me William Preston on the line. Yes. The senior partner at Preston, Whitmore. Tell him it's urgent and relates to the continued relationship between his firm and Harriman Pharmaceuticals. She looked back at me. Mr. Chen, would you be willing to sign an affidavit about what you've discovered? Yes. Good. My assistant will take your statement. I'm about to make some calls that will fundamentally alter your wife's future. I thought you should know. I spent the next 2 hours giving a detailed statement while Jennifer worked her phone like a conductor, orchestrating a symphony of destruction. She called board members, clients, and fellow attorneys. Each conversation was brief, professional, and devastating. By noon, she had assembled a package that included not just evidence of the affair, but the fraudulent billing, the expense abuse, and a pattern of behavior that violated the firm's ethics guidelines and possibly state law. This will be delivered to Preston, Whitmore, and Associates within the hour, she informed me, along with notice that unless both Michael and your wife are terminated immediately, Harriman Pharmaceuticals, Nexus Biotech, and Crossfield Industries will be terminating their relationships with the firm. That seems extreme, I said, though part of me felt satisfaction. Mr. Chen, your wife made a choice to participate not just in destroying my marriage, but in defrauding clients. That's not just personal. It's professional misconduct. She's a lawyer. She knew better. That evening, Sarah came home in tears. She looked destroyed, her carefully styled hair disheveled, her makeup smeared. "You vindictive bastard," she said when she saw me. "You destroyed everything." "I didn't destroy anything. You did that yourself." I was called into the senior partner's office this morning. Someone sent them evidence of things. They fired me on the spot. They're considering reporting me to the Bar Association. I could lose my license. Someone? Sarah, you committed billing fraud. You had an affair with a married partner. What did you think would happen? Michael said he'd protect me. And where's Michael now? Her phone rang. She answered immediately. Michael? Thank God. I've been trying to reach you all day. Her face fell as she listened. What do you mean it's over? You said. You promised. She went pale. Your wife? But you said you were leaving her. More listening. That's not true. You pursued me. You said I was special. She dropped the phone, looking shell-shocked. He says I seduced him. That I threw myself at him. That he tried to maintain professional boundaries. But I wouldn't accept them. He's telling everyone that he was trying to end it, that I threatened to make false accusations if he didn't continue the affair. Sarah, his wife, filed for divorce, but she's using some prenup to take everything. He blames me. He says I've ruined his life. She laughed hysterically. He ruined my life. I gave up everything for him. You gave up everything for an illusion, I corrected. You gave up your family for status. You gave up your integrity for designer clothes and jewelry. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. I've lost everything. Not everything. You still have a chance to be a mother to your children. Unless, of course, you're still planning to send them to boarding school once you get custody. Her face went white. How did you? Emma heard you on the phone. She recorded it. She's 10 years old, Sarah. And she heard her mother planning to ship her away like unwanted luggage. Sarah sank onto the couch. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. In that moment, you absolutely meant it. You were so caught up in your fantasy life with Michael that your own children became inconveniences. What's going to happen to me? She whispered. That depends on you. Jennifer Thornton won't pursue the fraud charges if Michael agrees to her divorce terms. But your career at any major firm is over. The legal community in Denver is small. Everyone will know what happened. And us? Our marriage? I sat down across from her, maintaining distance. I've already met with a divorce attorney. I'm filing tomorrow. I'm seeking primary custody based on parental alienation and your stated intention to send the children away. Emma's recording will be submitted as evidence. You can't take my children. You were planning to give them away. How is that better? She broke down completely then, sobbing in a way I'd never seen before. The controlled, ambitious woman who'd rejected me just days ago was gone, replaced by someone who'd lost everything she'd thought she wanted. But I couldn't comfort her. She'd made her choices, and now we all had to live with the consequences. Over the next week, I watched Sarah unravel completely. She'd moved into the guest room, spending her days in pajamas, making desperate phone calls to law firms that wouldn't hire her and friends who wouldn't return her calls. The legal community in Denver had closed ranks against her. Word traveled fast about the billing fraud and the affair with a partner. But I wasn't idle during this time. Jennifer Thornton had become an unexpected ally, and through her, I learned exactly how calculated Michael's pursuit of Sarah had been. I found emails, Jennifer told me over coffee at a quiet cafe downtown. Michael had been planning this for months. He identified Sarah as a target the day she started. Young, ambitious, married to someone he perceived as beneath her ambitions. It's a pattern. She showed me printed emails between Michael and another partner, discussing Sarah like she was a business acquisition. Fresh meat, one email read. Married to some tech nobody. She'll be easy to turn. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Because I want them both to pay, Jennifer said simply. Michael for obvious reasons. Your wife for being stupid enough to fall for it, and cruel enough to destroy her family over it. She's already lost everything. Not everything. She still has her law license. For now, Jennifer explained her plan. She would file for divorce from Michael with the evidence of his affairs. Multiple affairs. As it turned out, Sarah wasn't his first at the firm, just the latest. The prenuptial agreement would strip him of almost everything. But more importantly, she would ensure the Bar Association received a complete file on both Michael and Sarah's professional misconduct. Unless, she added, Sarah is willing to provide testimony against Michael. Full disclosure about how he pursued her, the promises he made, the fraudulent billing he instructed her to do. You want her to turn on him? I want the truth on record. Michael has destroyed 3 young attorneys' careers over the past decade. It ends now. When I got home, I found Sarah in the kitchen with our children, attempting to make dinner. It was the first time she'd cooked in months. Emma was helping reluctantly, while Jacob chattered about his day, oblivious to the tension. Can we talk? I asked Sarah after the kids went to bed. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place where she'd demanded I liquidate my retirement just 10 days ago. She looked older, defeated, nothing like the confident woman who'd rejected me. Jennifer Thornton wants to meet with you, I said. Sarah's face went pale. Michael's wife? Why? She's offering you a deal. Testify against Michael about the fraud and the affairs, and she won't push for your disbarment. Testify? Against Michael? Sarah looked shocked. I can't do that. Why not? He's already thrown you under the bus. He's telling everyone you seduced him, that you were unstable, that he was trying to end things. But that's not true. Then, tell the truth. Jennifer has evidence of his pattern. You're not his first victim, Sarah. But you could be his last. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Victim? I'm not a victim. I made choices. Yes, you did. Bad choices. But you were also manipulated by someone in a position of power who's done this before. That doesn't excuse what you did to our family, but it's context the Bar Association needs to hear. What about us? She asked quietly. If I do this, will you? Can we try again? I looked at my wife, really looked at her. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by an old college sweatshirt. The perfect makeup was absent, revealing the stress lines around her eyes. She looked more like the woman I'd married than she had in months. I don't know, I answered honestly. Trust is broken, Sarah. You didn't just cheat. You were ready to destroy me, take our children, send them away. You rejected me in our own bed because touching me was beneath your new self-respect. How do we come back from that? I was so stupid, she whispered. Michael made me feel special, important. He said I was wasting my potential with you, that I deserved more. And you believed him. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to be the person he saw, sophisticated, powerful, above the mundane life I'd been living. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. But that life, our life, it wasn't mundane, was it? It was real. It was good. And I threw it away for an illusion. The next day, Sarah met with Jennifer Thornton. I wasn't present, but Sarah told me about it afterward. Jennifer had been brutal but fair, extracting every detail of Michael's manipulation while also holding Sarah accountable for her choices. She's right to hate me, Sarah said. I knew he was married. I knew it was wrong. But he made me feel like I was the exception, like what we had was different. The meeting resulted in a 20-page affidavit detailing Michael's behavior, the fraudulent billing he'd instructed her to do, the promises he'd made about her career advancement, and the gifts he'd claimed were firm bonuses but were actually personal bribes. 2 days later, Michael was served with divorce papers at his office. The scene, according to witnesses, was spectacular. He tried to argue, to negotiate, but Jennifer had him cornered. The prenuptial agreement was ironclad, and the evidence was overwhelming. But the real blow came when the Bar Association launched an investigation based on the fraud evidence. Other associates came forward, women Michael had targeted over the years. The pattern was clear and damning. Sarah's testimony was crucial. She admitted her role, while also exposing Michael's systematic abuse of power. It was humiliating for her, but it was also cathartic. "I sat in that room with the bar investigators," she told me, "and I had to admit that I'd betrayed everything I'd sworn to uphold as a lawyer. But I also got to tell the truth about how it happened, how he groomed me, how he isolated me from you, and made me believe you were my enemy." The firm, Preston, Whitmore and Associates, conducted their own investigation. The results were devastating for Michael. Not only had he been billing personal time to clients, but he'd been using firm resources to facilitate his affairs for years. The partnership voted unanimously to expel him. Within a month, Michael had lost his partnership, his marriage, most of his assets, and was facing disbarment. His reputation, built over 30 years, was destroyed. But Sarah's situation was complicated too. The Bar Association recognized that she'd been manipulated but also held her accountable for her choices. She received a 6-month suspension of her law license and was required to complete ethics training before she could practice again. "It's more than I deserve," she admitted. "I could have lost my license permanently." During this time, something unexpected happened. Sarah began to change. Genuinely change. She started seeing a therapist, someone who specialized in helping people who'd lost themselves in toxic relationships. She began spending real time with the kids, helping with homework, attending Jacob's soccer games, working on Emma's science project. "Mom's different," Emma told me one night. "She actually listens now." Sarah also got a job, not at a law firm but at a nonprofit legal aid society, preparing documents and doing research while her license was suspended. The pay was minimal, $20 an hour, but she seemed more at peace than she'd been in months. "It's honest work," she said. "I'm actually helping people who need it, not just making rich corporations richer." One evening, she asked if we could talk. We sat on the back porch, watching the sunset over the Rockies, a view we'd once loved sharing. "I know I've destroyed us," she began. "I know there's probably no coming back from what I did. But I need you to know that I see it now. All of it. The manipulation, yes, but also my own arrogance, my greed, my willingness to throw away something real for something shiny and fake." "What do you want from me, Sarah?" "Nothing," she said. "I don't have the right to want anything from you. I wanted you to know that the man you are, the father you are, the husband you were, there was never anything lacking in that. You were enough, more than enough. I was the one who wasn't enough. I wasn't strong enough to see through the manipulation or wise enough to value what I had." It was the first real accountability I'd heard from her, without excuses or qualifications. "I'm still filing for divorce," I said. "I know. I won't fight you on custody. The kids need stability, and you're the one who can give them that. I'll take whatever visitation you think is fair." We sat in silence for a while, two people who'd once promised each other forever, now negotiating the terms of our ending. The divorce proceedings began 2 weeks later. True to her word, Sarah didn't fight me on custody. She agreed to joint legal custody, but with me having primary, physical custody. She would have the kids every other weekend, and one evening per week. It was more generous than my lawyer had recommended, but despite everything, I wanted our children to have their mother in their lives. Sarah had moved into a small apartment in Aurora, a far cry from our Cherry Creek home. The day she moved out was surreal. 12 years of marriage reduced to boxes and suitcases. She didn't take much, just her clothes, some books, and a few personal items. "The furniture belongs to our family," she said. "I don't have the right to it anymore." The financial settlement was straightforward. Sarah's hidden account with $42,000 was considered marital assets concealed during divorce proceedings, so it was split but with a penalty to her share. The house would remain with me and the children. Given her reduced income and the circumstances of the divorce, there was no alimony for either party. But the real collapse came from unexpected quarters. Sarah's parents, Richard and Linda, flew in from California when they heard about the divorce. They'd always adored their daughter, supported her unconditionally. Sarah was their only child, their pride and joy. I expected them to take her side, to blame me somehow. Instead, they were devastated by what she'd done. "We didn't raise her to be this person," Linda told me through tears. "We taught her about integrity, about loyalty, about family. Where did we go wrong?" Richard was more direct with Sarah. I overheard their conversation in my driveway when they came to see the kids. "You had everything," he told his daughter. "A loving husband who supported your dreams, 2 beautiful children, a good life. And you threw it away for what? A man who saw you as a plaything? A job that required you to sell your soul? Dad, you don't understand the pressure I was under," Sarah tried to explain. "Pressure? You think pressure excuses betraying your family? Your mother worked 2 jobs to put me through medical school. I worked nights and weekends during her teaching certification. That's pressure. What you had was temptation, and you failed." The kids overheard some of this, and it affected them differently. Jacob, still young, just wanted everyone to stop fighting. But Emma, perceptive as always, began pulling away from her mother during visits. "She was going to send us away," Emma told her grandmother. "She didn't want us anymore." "That's not true, sweetheart," Sarah tried to interject. "I heard you, Mom. I recorded you. You said we were cramping your style." The look of shame on Sarah's face was painful to witness, even for me. Meanwhile, Michael's situation had become a cautionary tale in Denver's legal community. Jennifer had been thorough in her destruction. Not only did he lose his partnership and most of his assets, but the Bar Association's investigation had uncovered years of misconduct. 3 more women came forward with similar stories. Young associates or junior partners he'd pursued, promised advancement, then discarded when they became inconvenient or when his wife got suspicious. One had left law entirely after he'd sabotaged her career. Another had attempted suicide after he'd gaslit her into believing she was unstable. The Bar Association didn't just suspend Michael's license, they revoked it permanently. At 58 years old, he was no longer able to practice law anywhere in the United States. His name became synonymous with abuse of power in legal circles. Sarah was called to testify at his disbarment hearing. She had to face him again, this time in front of a panel of judges and fellow attorneys. I attended to support her. Despite our pending divorce, Michael tried to intimidate her with his stare, but Sarah held firm. She detailed everything: the grooming, the gifts disguised as bonuses, the fraudulent billing he'd instructed her to do, the promises of partnership and a life together. "He told me my husband was holding me back," she testified. "That I was wasting my potential in a middle-class life. He said he saw something special in me, that I deserved more. He isolated me from my family by making me believe they were beneath the person I could become." When asked why she'd participated in the fraudulent billing, she was honest. "I knew it was wrong, but Michael said it was how business was done at that level, that everyone did it, and if I wanted to succeed, I needed to play the game. I was so desperate for his approval, so intoxicated by the life he was showing me, that I compromised everything I'd once stood for." Michael's attorney tried to paint her as a willing participant, not a victim. "You're an educated attorney, Miss Chen. You knew right from wrong." "Yes, I did," Sarah admitted, "and I chose wrong. I'm not here to claim innocence. I'm here to tell the truth about how a senior partner used his position to manipulate a junior associate into an inappropriate relationship and illegal activities." After the hearing, Michael approached us in the parking lot. He looked older, defeated, a shadow of the commanding presence he'd once been. "You destroyed me," he said to Sarah. "No, Michael. You destroyed yourself. I was just collateral damage in your pattern of destruction." He turned to me. "You must be enjoying this." "I'm not enjoying anything," I replied honestly. "My family is broken. My wife is broken. There's nothing to enjoy here. Your wife? He laughed bitterly. She was never yours. Women like her, they're always looking for something better. Sarah stepped forward. You're wrong. I had something better. I had a husband who loved me, supported me, believed in me. I had children who needed me. I had a life that was real and good. You convinced me it wasn't enough, but you were the one who was never enough. You were just an empty suit with empty promises. Michael walked away without another word. It was the last time either of us saw him. The next few months were a blur of legal proceedings, custody arrangements, and attempts to create a new normal. Sarah completed her ethics training and got her license reinstated. She continued working at the Legal Aid Society, finding purpose in helping people who couldn't afford legal representation. I helped a single mother keep her home today, she told me during a kid exchange. She was facing foreclosure because of predatory lending. We got the bank to restructure the loan. That's good, Sarah. Really good. It feels like the kind of law I should have been practicing all along. Actually helping people instead of helping rich corporations get richer. She was in therapy twice a week, working through what her therapist called achievement addiction and external validation dependency. She shared some of her insights during our co-parenting discussions. I've always measured my worth by external achievements, she explained. Grades, degrees, job titles, salary. When Michael offered me a fast track to the top, I was like an addict being offered the ultimate high. I literally couldn't see what I was sacrificing to get it. The kids were adjusting, slowly. Jacob bounced back quickly, as 8-year-olds do. Emma took longer. She insisted on therapy. Wise beyond her 10 years. I need to understand why my mom chose someone else over us, she told me. I need to know it wasn't our fault. The therapist helped both children process the divorce and the betrayal. Sarah attended some sessions, facing the hard questions from her children about why she'd been willing to send them away. I lost myself, she told them. I got so caught up in trying to be someone important that I forgot I was already important to the people who mattered most. There's no excuse for it. I failed you as a mother. All I can do now is try to earn your trust back. Will you leave us again? Jacob asked. Never, Sarah promised. I've learned that nothing, no job, no money, no status, is worth losing you. It was during one of these family therapy sessions that something unexpected happened. The therapist asked me how I felt about Sarah's transformation. I see the work she's doing, I said carefully. I see her taking responsibility, making amends. But trust takes time. Maybe more time than we have. What would it take for you to trust her again? The therapist asked. I thought about it for a long moment. I don't know if I can. She didn't just cheat. She was prepared to destroy me, to take our children and discard them. She looked at our life together and found it worthless. How do you come back from that? Sarah was crying quietly. You don't, she said. You don't come back from it. You can only move forward, differently, hopefully better. That night, after I'd put the kids to bed, I found myself looking through old photo albums. Our wedding, our first house, Emma's birth, family vacations. The Sarah in those pictures was radiant with genuine joy, not the artificial confidence she'd worn like armor at Preston, Whitmore, and Associates. I wondered if that woman still existed or if she'd been an illusion too. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. I know I have no right to ask, but can we talk? Not about us, but about something I've discovered. Curious, despite myself, I agreed to meet her for coffee the next morning. 6 months had passed since that first meeting for coffee. Sarah had shown me documents she'd found while cleaning out her old work files, evidence that Preston, Whitmore, and Associates had a systemic problem with senior partners preying on young associates. Michael hadn't been an anomaly. He was part of a toxic culture. I want to do something about it, she'd said. Not for redemption, but because it's right. Together, we'd helped 3 other women come forward with their stories. Sarah used her legal skills to help them file complaints, working pro bono while maintaining her job at the Legal Aid Society. It wasn't about saving our marriage. That ship had sailed. It was about preventing other families from experiencing what we'd gone through. The divorce had been finalized 4 months ago. We were co-parents now, nothing more, though we'd found a rhythm that worked. Sarah had kept her small apartment, decorating it with photos of the kids and simple furniture from IKEA. A far cry from the designer showcase she'd once dreamed of. "It feels more like home than our house ever did during those last months," she told me during a pickup. "Maybe because I'm actually present in it." I'd started dating Rebecca, Emma's former teacher, 2 months ago. She was everything Sarah hadn't been in those final months. Present, genuine, unimpressed by status symbols. She drove a 10-year-old Honda and thought eating at food trucks was a perfect date. The kids liked her, especially Emma, who appreciated having a female figure who valued books over brands. Sarah had been gracious about it. "She seems good for you," she'd said simply. "For the kids, too." "Are you seeing anyone?" I'd asked, more out of courtesy than curiosity. "No, I'm not ready. Maybe I'll never be ready. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not trying to be someone else." Today was Jacob's 9th birthday. We'd agreed to celebrate together at the park, showing the kids that despite everything, we could still be a family, just configured differently. Sarah arrived early to help set up, bringing a homemade cake she'd baked herself. "Remember when I used to bake all the time?" she asked, adjusting the picnic decorations. "Before I decided that partners' wives didn't do such mundane things?" "I remember. Your chocolate chip cookies were legendary. I've been baking again. The kids like it when I send them home with treats." The party was surprisingly pleasant. Sarah's parents came, having slowly rebuilt their relationship with their daughter. My brother Marcus was there with his family. Even Rebecca stopped by briefly to drop off a gift, exchanging polite conversation with Sarah before leaving to give us family time. As the sun began to set and guests departed, Sarah and I found ourselves cleaning up together while the kids played on the swings. "Can I tell you something?" Sarah asked, tying up a trash bag. "The day you said no to my demands, when you threw my words back at me about self-respect, that was the beginning of my wake-up. I was furious in the moment. But later, alone in Michael's penthouse, I kept hearing those words. You had more self-respect in that moment than I'd had in months. It wasn't about respect, Sarah. It was about survival. You were asking me to destroy our future for your present. I know that now." Michael had convinced me that the future was corner offices and country clubs. But the future was right in front of me. You. The kids. Our life. I just couldn't see it. Emma ran over, interrupting our conversation. "Dad, Mom, look." Jacob's trying to do a backflip. We rushed over to spot him, both of us calling out warnings and encouragement in equal measure. For a moment, we were just parents, united in our love and concern for our children. It was a glimpse of what we'd been, what we'd lost, and what we were trying to build anew. Later that evening, after Sarah had gone home to her apartment and the kids were asleep in their beds, I sat on the back porch with a beer, reflecting on the journey. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Thank you for letting me be part of today. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful for a lot of things I didn't appreciate before. Mostly, I'm grateful you're the father of our children. They're lucky to have you." I texted back. "They're lucky to have their mother too. The real one. Not the person you were trying to be." A year ago, Sarah had rejected me in our bed, claiming self-respect. She'd been prepared to destroy everything we'd built for an illusion of success and status. But in losing everything she thought she wanted, she'd found something more valuable. Actual self-respect. The kind that comes from facing your failures, making amends, and rebuilding with integrity. I thought about Rebecca, about the new relationship we were building based on honesty and mutual respect. I thought about Sarah, working at legal aid, helping people who actually needed help. I thought about our kids, resilient and adapting, learning hard lessons about integrity and consequences. We weren't the family we'd once been. That family had been built on a foundation that crumbled under the weight of ambition and betrayal. But from those ruins, we were each building something new, something stronger, because it was tested and conscious. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Rebecca. "How was the party?" "Hope it went well. See you tomorrow for dinner?" I smiled, texting back. "It was good. Really good. And yes, to tomorrow. Life moves forward, not backward. Sarah had learned that the hard way, losing everything she'd thought she wanted, and discovering what actually mattered. I'd learned it too, finding strength I didn't know I had and refusing to compromise my values for anyone, even someone I loved. The truth about self-respect isn't that it protects you from others. It's that it protects you from yourself. From the temptation to betray your own values for someone else's approval. Sarah had lost that protection, seduced by Michael's promises and the allure of prestige. But in the end, she'd found it again, though at a terrible cost. As for me, I discovered that real self-respect sometimes means saying no, even when it costs you everything. It means standing firm in your values when someone you love tells you those values aren't enough. It means protecting your children even from their own mother when necessary. And sometimes, it means forgiving someone who's genuinely changed, not to restore what was, but to build something new. I went inside to check on the kids one more time. Emma was reading with a flashlight under her covers. Jacob was sprawled across his bed with his soccer ball still at his feet. They were good kids, strong kids. They'd survived their parents' collapse and were thriving despite it. Tomorrow, Sarah would pick them up for her evening visit. She'd help with homework, make dinner, maybe bake cookies. She'd be present in a way she hadn't been for those terrible months when ambition had blinded her. She'd be their mother, not perfect but trying, aware of what she'd almost lost and grateful for what remained. And I'd continue building my own new life, with Rebecca, with my work, with the hard-earned knowledge that I was enough, had always been enough, just as I was. No corner office required, no country club membership needed, just integrity, love for my children, and the self-respect to never let anyone make me feel less than for living an authentic life. If you've made it this far in my story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever faced a situation where someone you loved made you feel like you weren't enough? Where their ambition or desires made them lose sight of what really mattered? How did you find the strength to stand up for yourself? I share this story not for sympathy, but as a reminder that real self-respect isn't about pride or status. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to let anyone, even someone you love, convince you otherwise. It's about protecting what matters most, even when it means letting go of someone who's lost their way. If this story resonated with you, please consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it. Like and subscribe if you want to hear more real-life stories about overcoming betrayal, finding strength in difficult times, and rebuilding after loss. And please, leave a comment with your own experiences or thoughts. Sometimes, knowing we're not alone in our struggles is the first step toward healing. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, you are enough just as you are. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Stand firm in your values, protect what matters most, and never apologize for having self-respect. Sometimes the greatest act of love is saying no, and sometimes the path to redemption requires losing everything first. Stay strong, value yourself, and never forget that true success isn't measured by status or salary, but by the integrity with which you live your life and the love you share with those who matter most.